Oh, I almost got murdered the other day.
Murdered?
Kind of, yeah. So we're doing like a curbside carryout. We're like technically closed.
Josh.
But so we're still like, if people place orders online, we'll like bring it out to the car. And these dudes pulled up, need ammo, and we like stopped selling ammo about 2 months ago, anyways. So like I go up to them like, guys, we don't carry ammo. We're not open, so there's no way that we can let you inside to look for it. And they're like, nah, bro, everybody's open. You're just close to the doors for us specifically because you just don't want to do business with us. And so I'm like, basically holding the doors back because they're going to pound down the front doors. And so they're like threatening to wait in the parking lot afterwards. So I just basically told them to call the cops, and then they eventually scattered. They had like 2 guys stay behind and just like wait around the corner.
I was saying a little bit ago that we should clarify for whoever's listening that you work at, or this happened at Dick's.
Oh yeah, sorry, Dick's Sporting Goods. Yes, sir.
For some reason, and I think it's just because I used to go to Sports Authority all the time, I always think it's Sports Authority. And it's not.
Technically, I guess it is, because they kind of bought them out.
Wait, Sports Authority bought Dick's?
No, Dick's.
Other way around.
Sports Authority.
Yeah.
More like...
Don't say it.
You know it's coming, bro.
I know you're thinking of something. Don't even say it.
Wait.
Past 5 years, is whenever Josh says, you mean, just do not say.
Let me just try one.
All right.
One,
I'll give
okay.
you
All right.
one chance.
Sports peasant. Do you think? What do you think?
I was thinking of sporting goods.
All right. Ben runs the first ever
Pun off.
compunction.
Compuntition, yes.
Hey, that's a thing. Hey, so here's an important thing that I was thinking about the other day. The word ass. And censorship in general, but I think they're related. So when I was a kid, right, the movie Liar Liar with Jim Carrey, like I saw that, obviously a movie a kid should not watch. It's funny and kind of irreverent, but anyway, not, something the kid should see. But there's a monologue where Jim Carrey goes off about, or Fletcher Reed goes off about his boss, and he calls him a pretentious bastard. And I didn't know the word bastard at that point, so I thought it was just something you call somebody who's like a bozo. So I said it in front of my mom, and she got really upset, and I was like, all right, that's how I learned that that's a bad word. And I'm thinking now, we think about words like heathen or I don't know, harlot. And those words just all the stingers have kind of been cut off of them, Or in the 50s, you called someone a punk and they were dragging you behind their car. Now you call someone's girlfriend and they're just like, man, you say that 10 more times, I might get a little mad. So with things getting more relaxed, do you think that eventually I personally don't think that there's a way to really say the word ass that's offensive in our current day and age, I think you would have to try really hard to get offended by the word ass. Where if I was watching a movie with my nieces and it was on TBS and they let an F word slip, I'd be like, whoa, that's yeah, they're gonna hear it eventually, but I think ass is you'll hear that in some Nickelodeon movies. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
All of this is subjective anyways, because someone decided someday that oh man, ass is just not a word I want to hear.
Well, and so and again, I do understand, there are words that, it's again, back to the SpongeBob episode, because he's been through it all, where SpongeBob asks how many bad words there are, and Mr. Krabs says 11, and Squidward says 7, and then Mr. Krabs says, not if you're a sailor, there's 11. And so I thought, all right, what 7 are there by SpongeBob's standards in 2002 or whenever that episode was. And I mean, really, I got to like 4, and I was like, all right, it's kind of a stretch to add this word in, and then these other 2 aren't even really bad words. And then Remember the Titans, the Disney movie, where Coach Boone is talking to Coach Yost, and he's like, we don't give a damn about how sensitive these kids are, blah, 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 especially the young black ones. And, like, I was watching that with my parents, and, like, they didn't really bat an eye because it's Denzel Washington, and he's just, you can't not love him. But, like, I don't know, I think, I wonder if we'll get to a point where there will be no more bad words, or if there will be new ones.
It's got to be new ones, probably, or even just the same ones, because there's, as weird as just to say, there's kind of a need for those words. Like, they need to have a word to express that, like a word that they shouldn't be saying to express how they're feeling.
Right, okay. So, like,
the reason that these words exist is either to kind of express how you negatively feel about something or someone.
So it's like a top shelf, like, champagne to celebrate an occasion where, like,
Bingo.
It's not like they don't ever make that champagne because it's so special, but it's like, we have it, but we're not going to break out the champagne every time there's a green light, you know.
Bingo.
So I understand that. But Bless, what were you going to say?
We're always going to have what is formal speech and speech that we find proper around children as well. And I find that 2 of those, as long as those exist, you are going to have words that you don't use in those scenarios. There are always going to be words that we don't want kids to be using because they express an idea that we don't want them to understand quite yet. And then also in business, you just don't talk in certain ways. When I'm at work, I understand that I can throw certain words around with my general manager because I've known him for 2 years. However, when one of the supervisors from the area comes in, I'm not going to be cracking the same exact jokes that I normally would just because I know, like, okay, this is a serious business situation. You just don't use certain words. And, like, there is just always a connotation that certain words have, and unless you know somebody, you don't use them unless you need to express those words.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel it.
That is an interesting point about, like, words express sort of like a feeling. So a word that you don't want a kid to know is like a feeling that you don't want them to, I guess, like, experience quite yet. Or, like, don't say you hate that because right now you're 7 and your Hot Pocket isn't ready after exactly a minute and 30 seconds in the microwave. So, like, you don't hate that. What you'll hate is, like, when you're 30 and somebody tailgates you on the freeway and, like, they kind of bump your bumper and you know, swerve into the shoulder and roll over a nail and bust your tire. Like, that is when you'll use the word hate and mean it. And so, like, it's kind of like almost as a kid, you kind of can't feel those things just yet, I guess.
I can't really properly express how you're feeling about certain things, or even, like, be able to understand how you're feeling about things in general.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, well, and I always think of well, you go, Fuego.
No, go for it.
Well, I was going to say, I always think of the first time that I not really got in trouble for saying a bad word, but, like, the first time my parents heard me saying a bad word. I was, like, 3 or 4 years old, and, like, my mom, she gave me a Dr. Pepper because I guess it was the weekend or something, and it was shaken up when I opened it, and it spilled on me, and I go, oh, I got Dr. Pepper all over me, Mommy. And she's like, Benjamin, you can't say those words in front of a lady. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And then I go into the other room and I'm like, oh, Dad, I spilled Dr. Pepper all over me. And he goes, Benjamin, you can't be saying those words. He's like, well, Mom says I can't say it in front of a lady, and you say I can't say it at all. Well, what's going on with this? And my parents are like, well, Benjamin, who taught you this word? I'm like, Dad did. And so like as a kid, you hear somebody else expressing that, and you're like, well, this is what somebody else says when they spill things on themselves.
Right.
So this is what I should say when I spill things on myself.
Yeah.
And that's just like why you don't use those words in front of kids. And like I even remember like the phrasing my mom used. We don't use those words in front of ladies, or we don't use those words. And it's like, it's not bad that you're expressing frustration because something spilled on you. You just don't use that word because something spilled on you.
Right.
Just say, I spilled Dr. Pepper on myself, rather than, I spilled Dr. Pepper on myself. But yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard a more Ben Blizzard story than that before.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was perf.
Yeah.
Just these past few weeks, really, the only thing that I've kind of had in my mind is just how important just spending time with people that you care about really is. Like, it's gonna sound tacky. I know it's gonna sound so tacky, but
no, I mean
there are so many times where, like, you have some minor situation, or like, oh, I've got work, so I can't do this or something, and you're missing out on time with like the people you're caring about. I remember it was last summer, maybe 2 summers. I think it was last summer. No, maybe 2 summers ago. Not sure. My family was all taking a cross country trip with my little sisters. They were taking out to visit all the schools, going from Virginia back to Washington. And I'd been out there in Virginia for like a week, so I was like, okay, well, I've been away from work long enough, and whatever, blah blah blah. I guess I'll just head back, get back to it, whatever, make some money before school starts up again. And so they took that whole trip, just seeing the world together, just all of them, or the world, seeing the country, and getting to see all the cool stuff out there. And I was just back at home working, and it's just funny looking back, and you're like, man, you know, what did that extra week of work give me, you know? Like, yeah, I made, a couple $100 or something, whatever. But, like, there's just those times where you just don't think about how, man, there's clearly this group of people who mean more to me than going to work for a week. Like, why couldn't you just take that extra time, you know?
Right.
And it's just especially now with all this lockdown going on, like, are we literally just working to work, like, just to get away from home? Like, it's weird. It's such an odd concept that I've been just puzzling my mind around for a while, because there's so many, like, all the corporate jobs, I know they could be doing 99% of their business over the phone. Like, there are some things you have to have meetings for, sure, but most of it can be done with a couple emails. And that's what people are kind of realizing right now, is that there's no reason I should have to go to work for 40, 60 hours a week and be away from my family as you're, like, raising a family or just hanging out with your family for whatever. But just a lot of it seeming very, almost irrelevant. Maybe not irrelevant, but not as utterly necessary as
somewhat needless, yeah. Yeah, it's even funny, like, I've been rewatching The Office, as Josh knows, and, like, there's even that idea, towards the end, like, Jim has to choose between Pam and working for this large company that he essentially was the idea man for. Like, he came up with the whole idea for it, but then, like, there's all these episodes and they're like, yeah, this just whole communicating over the phone isn't working, and it's like, well, that's because you're choosing not to let it work. Like, find ways to make phone calls and meetings work over the phone, because you don't need to take people away from their families in order to get ideas across to one another. Like, you don't need to be looking at one another in order to get those ideas across. And if we're making that our boundary, then yeah, like, you're taking people away from their families, but also you're taking the best minds out of some of those entities that are creating work for other people, because that other person has to choose between going all the way to wherever this job is in whatever city, or being with their family, which is a big ask of any person.
Mm-hmm.
So a good person is going to choose their family. But then wouldn't you want the good person working for that company? But yeah, I see what you're bringing up, Fuego.
And a lot of those, again, like those creative minds, they kind of thrive. But kind of like you mentioned earlier, you've got a work personality and then like a home personality, or at home you can kind of be yourself and come up with those ideas that you're kind of thinking up.
Right.
And when you're in that business mindset, it's a little bit less of branching out and being creative and kind of more looking towards, all right, this is how things have been done, or this is how things should be done, and not kind of looking out and come up with creative ideas to form better ways to do stuff, or even better ideas of how to get things done.
Yeah, it's harder to be creative when you're being forced to, rather than when you're just in an open space, just allowing ideas to
and for
flow.
you, Josh, like that episode of SpongeBob where he becomes the boring SpongeBob, and they round him out, and he's like that businessman instead of just like regular SpongeBob.
Yeah, just say hi.
He's like smooth
How you doing? He's not like you see what is lost when you take that away from him. It's like, all right, we'll do this figuratively in this animated setting, so you can see like that part of a person who you know that you think is maybe a little bit irritating might be like connected to like the essence of who they are. And like if your dreams came true and that annoying part about them was gone, so you weren't annoyed, then like they wouldn't be fully them, and they really wouldn't be them at all. And like, I don't know, man. Like that, I think that there's a reason why the three of us like have gone through a lot of teammates in the past 4 years, obviously, but remained close as like as a trio. I also think that SpongeBob has a lot more depth to it than I think meets the eye, and I think one thing that unites the three of us is that we each sort of individually as kids saw that show and was like, there's some wacky stuff going on, but like when I'm an adult, when I'm in my 20s, I'm gonna like think about that philosophically. The way that they disguise it, and not even disguise it, but just say like, we're gonna take you through the life of a person we made up. And it's kind of like, well, when you strip away the underwater part and the sponge part, then like he's a person who needs to, he needs recognition at work, and he needs to spend time with his friends, and he needs to have fun, and he needs to eat, like the episode where he wants to make an ice cream sundae and he doesn't have any ice cream, so he makes like a expired peanut butter and
oh no,
and whatever onion thing, and his breath smells bad and it has ketchup in it. But like,
and then like in that same episode, it goes through a whole crisis of like, oh wow, I don't feel accepted, and like they somehow turned a lack of acceptance into a TV episode, and like how if you just kind of accept yourself and realize that it doesn't really matter what other people think, like that they just threw that in there with an episode about how your breath can burn out a movie theater.
Dude, it's like they're just it's so man, it's so loaded with substance. I don't. There's really no other. But I think it makes you kind of like crave that substance. I think when you see a show that like it's very evident that it doesn't have that, I think that if you are a person who likes SpongeBob, for example, I don't know. I don't want to sound like a show snob because I like SpongeBob. That doesn't make me special. But I think that if you get accustomed to watching that show, and then you watch a show that like doesn't have that effort kind of propelling it, I think it's really easy to tell.
I always love the episode where he when he thinks that he's too grown up to be loved by his grandma. And like just how loaded that episode is, like when you really think about it, just like how people think when they grow up that they need to be insensitive and don't need to show love. However, that's like that's the best thing, like being loved by your grandma. Like you get cookies and you get fed and you get sweaters and like and like obviously they play it up to the most ridiculous extent, and like even as a grown-up with a job, he's treated like a little baby. But like they're showing like, hey, it's still good to be loved even though you're a grown up. Like, don't be so tough that you need to shove everyone away. And like, they didn't even need to say those words.
That's what poetry is, man. Saying it without saying it.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Bars. Seeing like the notification, like family video call is calling you, and like the first instinct is like, all right, let me finish this like Instagram caption first. Honestly, like even on the first episode of this podcast or whatever this is, that's what I'll admit to, that Instagram is like my thing where like, let me finish this real quick and then I'll do whatever. And then it's like, I don't know, things happen and it's like, damn, dude, I was buried in my phone and then that happened, and like you said, you know, what does that week of work get you? Like, what does that one Instagram caption get you? What does one view on a YouTube video get you? Like, without that time spent, you know, like I knew guys on deployment who were like, yeah, I'm missing, you know, I've been in the Navy 15 years, I'm missing my kid's like 9th birthday, not like 9-year-old, but like they've missed 9 of the kids' birthdays so far. So like the kid's turning 13 and they've been home for 4 of them, you know, and you know, like, I mean, you got to do your job, you know, you got to provide and you got to do X, Y, and Z, but
It's one you can't do over the phone.
right, yeah, precisely. It's like what can be done remotely and what needs to be attended to physically. I've enjoyed seeing the influx of look at this skill my kid has on Instagram. I'm not really big on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, but on Instagram I see a lot more of that now. Like hey, my kid's actually a pretty decent baseball player. Or like, look at my kid throw a football. Look at how well my kid hits a golf ball. You know, like, my kid painted this or whatever. Or like, I don't know, I went through the 21-year-old phase where I was like, no one wants to see pictures of your babies, dude. But then like I became a coach, and like you see a kid make progress and you're like, I'm so excited about that, I have to like share that story.
Or what I would give to just be able to hop on a bus with all my lax gear and everything packed for the weekend and get to a hotel and be really tired and stiff from being on a bus all night long, and then getting to the hotel and not being able to sleep because I'm not able to do my thing, and then waking up after a terrible night's sleep in a cold hotel room because whoever I was rooming with always wanted a colder room than I wanted. Over drinking water and needing to piss a whole lot before the game, then getting stomped in that game, and then riding back and getting yelled at by whichever coach it was. But I was like, man, I would love to do that. But everything I'm describing, I'm like, it's miserable, but what's great is I got to play lacrosse, and getting home was the best feeling ever.
Right.
But also,
funny,
like,
I was explaining to somebody, I can't remember who it was, someone at work the other day. I was explaining that Alabama trip, the one where the bus driver ditched us and went and saw her sister, and then we were stuck in the field for an extra 8 hours because the bus was turned on.
And we took that picture, like, posted up on that concrete slab, like some OGs.
So they had to send another bus after us.
Yeah, and then, it broke down at the lows.
It was just like, I was going
loves.
through it, and I was like, man, you know, as shitty as that situation was, I would kill to go back to that time, to where I could just sit in the back of the bus with you two and all my other teammates.
I was just about to ask both of y'all to tell a story about traveling on the bus in a D3 lacrosse program. So, I guess like a closing topic. What do we got?
well, one thing that I've been thinking about recently that if you don't mind, I'll give you. I was talking about this a little the other day, but I've thought about it a little more. But this idea sparked when I went to McDonald's the other day, and I was already a little frustrated. And so I pulled into the drive-thru, and it was one of those double drive-thrus where they had the two different lines. And so that wasn't a big deal, but I noticed I finished my order like probably 5 seconds before the guy who was next to me. And then he looks over and then speeds up in front of me. So of course he gets to the window right before I do. And of course they've mixed up the two orders because he's gone out of order. And he starts yelling at the girls, and then everything was resolved in less than a minute. And he even like tried to apologize. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have reacted like that." I mean, and this is all me kind of hearing from a car behind, but like I could hear him yelling and criticizing them. And then I went to work later that day, and so we have a whole new, so I work at a restaurant as well, and we have a whole new system for everything, like whether
No, it's all good. It's just a text.
But whether it be DoorDash, a lot more online orders, we're doing margaritas and stuff like that to go. And then just with all the to-go orders, since you don't have people coming in and interacting with you, telling you everything that they want, one of the things we do is give chips and salsa away for free. And so recently, it has been only the managers and myself working. However, as of about a week ago, the other employees started working again. And that's kind of how it is for a lot of companies right now. The new employees or the hourly employees are coming back, and they're having to learn new things quickly, or companies are getting new hourly employees and again having to learn things quickly. Long and short of it, one of the hourly employees, he came in for his first day, and we just kind of expected that he knew what he was doing because he had been working there for a while, but we didn't necessarily explain everything new that was going on. So he forgot the salsas for one of the orders. And keep in mind, these are free salsas. Anyways, 30 minutes later, this woman, she comes in, and I took out the order and brought it to her husband, and he did not give me a tip. I remember the order, and I know he did not give me a tip. She comes in, and she reams my manager for about 5 minutes. Free salsas, and yelling, my husband gave y'all a big tip, and this and that and the other. And my manager, he was simply trying to explain, hey, okay, we're all going through this together right now. We're all trying to learn new things together, and I apologize that something got messed up, but if you could have some patience, I'd like to help you out. I obviously feel bad about this because you care about this, and we want you to come back. But I just was thinking about that. I was like, man, a lot of companies are just having to do things differently, and people are wanting everything to be the same and just not having patience with people who are working. So if it gets across to anybody, just have patience with people right now, because it's like everybody's going through this at the same time. It's not just one person.
Trying to create a situation where they can go back to where, oh, hey, I remember when I used to be able to just yell at the guy behind the counter because my order was wrong, kind of.
Right.
Like, oh man, now I have this opportunity, and I'm going to take full advantage of it, just to find something to do with my day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
well,
just not accepting that that's not a part of your life anymore.
And I'll tell you what, that was not the first time that she came in like that. That was not.
Yeah.
She was not a novice to walking into restaurants and chewing somebody out over something free, of course.
Naturally.
Dude, hey, so I think that's a good finishing topic. Sending food back, or really, I guess, overall, what y'all's threshold of acceptability is as a customer at a restaurant. And I'll go first because I'll be quick, but also y'all have made some really good points recently. So I'll just say quickly. For me, one, pretty easily pleased in terms of, matching my expectations to where I am. So like, if I'm at Carl's Jr. and, my fries are a little stale or a little cold, my expectations kind of were like including this experience. So like, I'm not necessarily disappointed. I'm not going to get back in line at the drive-thru and tell Carl's Jr. that they didn't put, bacon on my sandwich or whatever. Because just like, they're Carl's Jr. and like, if you have higher standards than what they provide, then like, don't eat there at that point. So like, I think that's different than if you go to Ruth's Chris and you get a salad instead of a baked potato. Like, yeah, send that back right away. That's kind of the standard. So to me, it depends on like the level of place I'm at. Like, if I'm at a place that's like, honestly, like IHOP or below, I'm accepting, almost any iteration. If I order a sandwich without cheese from the menu, then any sandwich that doesn't have cheese will probably not get sent back.
Right.
And then I kind of building off that, I think there's a certain way to go about it too, because people kind of feel like they're, I don't know if it's a sense of entitlement or what, but they feel like they have to make a big show that, hey, this is wrong and I need to tell everybody that my order is wrong.
Bro,
the people behind the counter, the people, the wait servers and the owners of the restaurants, they're going to be okay helping you out. Like, it's a mistake. You just mention it and they'll take care of it.
Right. You
don't have to make a big scene and show everybody, hey, this is not like, come on, man. You don't even know who's in the kitchen back there.
Yeah, you have no idea.
Could be some like 18-year-old kid starting his first job and he just accidentally put your medium fry in a bag instead of a large fry. Well, you don't even know the full story about it.
Yeah, well, and one thing that I've learned from working in a restaurant is, so I've worked there for long enough that I've started to care about customers' complaints. But when I first started, when I was in college, I honestly didn't care that much, and I know my other coworkers cared even less than I did. And the only people who really cared about any complaints were the managers. So, like, I've come to realize, like, whenever I have an issue, like, say I'm at an Olive Garden, because I am a big fan of the Olive Garden.
OGs of the OG,
Shout out
let's
OG.
go.
So, yeah, gotta get my Olive Garden plug in. See if we can get a sponsorship.
Get that
from
sponsorship. Olive Garden, we
I'm
love
trying to get OG t-shirts. I'm trying to get OG sweatpants. Let's go.
Yeah, dude. But anyways, like, I don't know, just the way that I think about it, like, if I'm at a restaurant that I enjoy, that I want to stay open, then you want other people to enjoy that restaurant and not only yourself. So, like, if you get, like, I don't know, say some chicken that seems a bit raw, or the pasta's cold and the chicken's warm or whatever, like, I'm not going to complain to the waitress because she doesn't care. She didn't make that food, and I'm barking up the wrong tree. I'm not going to the right place in order to make this complaint. However, the manager, if I do go and talk to them, not that I'm like I'm a Karen, I need to speak to your manager, but I would just be like,
his hand's on his hip right now.
Yeah, I got my hands on my hip right
He's got
now.
the hand on the hip. He's not playing no games right now.
No games. But just the best way to go about it is to not make a fuss, because like I've had people come and make complaints and then say something really really loudly about like the steak, and then the next 4 people in line who are gonna get steak are like, I don't want that steak now.
Right, it's like, can you not, dude?
So the best way to do it is just like go to the person who cares, like who would actually have a say in the matter, and just say, hey, I like coming to this place. I want other people to like coming to this place. Just to let you know, this is how this came out. I'm going to come back again, and I just hope that is better next time. The waitress doesn't care. She didn't make the food. Or the waiter, he didn't make the food.
And that's positive feedback. There was this time,
Right.
My family and I were all out in Spokane, and my dad, who worked at Starbucks at the time, he went, or he's at the corporate office or whatever, he went to one of the rest places there and got like a vanilla coffee or whatever, and brought it back home, and it was like hazelnut. And so he was like, okay, I don't want to make a big deal about this, so I'm just going to drive back and see if I can switch it out for another one. So explained it to the manager, got the situation figured out, got another coffee, brought it home again. It was hazelnut again. And so since he was like higher up in the company, he was like, okay, well, I kind of want to get this figured out because I don't want this to be an issue with all the customers that come in, or else it's going to kind of ruin their experiences. You don't know if it's like their first time coming and they're just getting the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And so he brought it back and kind of explained it again. It was like, so is there, what's going on with this? Because this is like 3 times in a row that this has happened. And so apparently they like have all the flavor pumps in the same spot every day, every time. And they hired some new guy who came in and like just replaced the vanilla and the hazelnut, but switched the spots they're normally in. And so like all the employees that have been working there for years were just like pressing where the normal vanilla button was, but it was actually hazelnut. And so like just by not freaking out and making like a normal ass situation out of it, he helped them get that
Figure
sorted
out
out and not have to deal with it. Yeah, they would have done that for probably 3 days before somebody else figured it out.
Might have taken even longer without his intervention. But I guess the question I would like to drop in, lastly, is what or where do we find the threshold as consumers between positive feedback that helps address issues that might be going on and being the Karen, and we'll edit this so that there's a big Karen in block letters across the screen when I say Karen. Being the Karen and being the, hey, my free salsa isn't good enough, you piece of garbage. So like,
also just to let you know, if your name is Karen,
you're doing fine, sweetie. It's okay. But that's what I would like to hear both of you all answer. That Fuego will let you get back to life on the ranch.
Man, I want to be on
Funny,
the ranch.
I think it's kind of a mix between whether or not you're just trying to make it known that something is wrong, or whether or not you're trying to see if there's something that went wrong to try to help it in the future, and then how you're addressing the person, like with your tone and like with how you're just in general how you're speaking to them, because you can say something constructively nice and still be a dick about it, or you can be polite and kind of skirt around something and not have a semi-major issue get resolved. And either way, those aren't really being productive one way or another. It's kind of hurting the situation, if anything.
Yeah.
So if you're kind of like addressing it in a way that's polite and at least making an attempt to solve not only just because you're obviously trying to solve your issue with whatever you had, or if you're trying to get your steak figured out or whatever, and just making sure that they know that, hey, look, if this did go wrong, I just want to make sure that it's not going to happen for anybody else that might come through here.
Right.
And not just like, hey, I didn't get I ordered this burger like 30 minutes ago and I ate the whole thing, but I just now realized there's no onions on it, so can I get like a $30 coupon for next time? No, that's just purely going out for your own personal gain versus like, hey man, look, there's other ways to go around solving that.
Right.
Yeah,
Bless, what do you think?
So I've honestly, I mean, in working in a restaurant has just made my patience for getting an order messed up. I just have a higher patience for it, and also like, I've also learned little things like, especially like after the first day of working there, somebody asked me to put cilantro on their nachos, and keep in mind there's like queso, like melted queso on top of it already, and I put a little too much cilantro on top, and she goes, "Do you even know what that tastes like? Why would you put so much?" And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you asked me to put it on there, and no, I don't know what cilantro tastes like because I don't like it. And so, like with stuff like that, like if they accidentally put pickles or onions on my burger, I'm just gonna pick that off. And then again, like I most of the time, I really think that constructive criticism is the best way to go about it, because especially in the restaurant business, nobody's like purposefully trying to get your order wrong. Like, right. You're not such a high profile person that you come in and they're like, sabotage, yeah, oh, that scumbag has come into the restaurant, let's mess up his order. Like, nobody's really that important when you're at like a small restaurant. However, like another example of customer service that you deal with that I will be pretty tough on is like leasing offices. Like, since I've lived in 2 apartment complexes now and had to interact with those management in the offices, I'll definitely go in with an attitude, and I definitely will stand my ground and show them that I'm not going to be pushed around in any sense, and I'm going to demand for what I deserve, because it is a lot of money that I'm dealing with. So I think, again, like you were saying, Josh, like when you go to a fancier restaurant, that's when you can kind of pick a bone when somebody's brought you the wrong thing. And like, as far as right. when an apartment complex is dealing with, you know, your livelihood, your living situation, that's when you kind of have to stand a ground. But when you pick a battle over free salsas or stale chips that were given to you for free, like that's when you gotta back off. Like, if you're driving,
if it's something that's not gonna affect you like 3 days down the road, then it's probably not a big enough deal to make an issue about now.
If you are using gas money in order to go get this free thing and are going to make a fuss about it, you really need to rethink the fuss that you are going to make. But, you know, that's the person that isn't going to rethink it.
Right.
That's exactly the person that is not going to rethink that.
Hey, it is what it is.
That's going to be our outro for every episode.
Alright, well, Fuego, we'll let you get back to life. We're going to have a field day with editing this and getting it up and making this a tradition, to spending time with the homies. As you reminded us, it's very
great to hear from you guys again. It's been honestly way too long.
Yeah, Fuego, you're still my only person in my favorites list in my contacts. There was one time a couple of years ago, I guess I had my phone in my pocket, and it was scrolling through my contacts and made Fuego one of my favorite contacts. And I don't have any others. And then I got a new phone, and I realized that I didn't have favorites, so I added Fuego, and that was the only person. I don't even what's funny is I don't even go to that. I don't even go to that list to find your contact in my phone. I just have you on that list because it's what I do.
It's ceremonious.
Yeah, exactly. How about we make this part the intro? Like, talking about Fuego's name, and then go.
We'll add this part into. This will be like.
And then never actually get to an explanation of why I'm Fuego.
Right.
Because, truth be told, there isn't one.
There isn't.
There honestly isn't. That's probably.
I still remember that
perhaps
day.
The best
up
part
in
of it.
the upper field, the old lacrosse field.
Mm-hmm.
And you just like decided I was Fuego that day.
All right, we'll let you get back to life, dude. We're probably gonna watch
it's
some
been
TV.
Awesome hearing from you guys again.
Yeah, dude.
Let me know if you ever want to do it again. I'm down for it.
We're absolutely. Before you go round 2, Dancing with Fire.
Oh, you gotta title too, brother.
That'll be the name of the second mixtape after we make the first one.
We gotta study up some dancing.
They can hear our hips not lying.
Right?
All right, dog. Have a good night, man.
Boys, I will catch you around. You as well.
Yeah, man. Take care.